Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. We're here today with part 2 of our Cabral HouseCalls, answering our community's questions each and every weekend. Hopefully, you tuned in yesterday. That was episode 1709. You can check out all of the questions over there. Like I always say, I'm telling you, if you listen to and you tune into enough shows, you are going to hopefully be able to answer these questions right along with me, because as you're beginning to accumulate that knowledge that I believe each one of us needs about our health, and the reason is this, is that they don't teach this in school, they don't even teach it in medical school, and these are things that we need to learn for ourselves, yes, to be able to heal ourselves, but also to pass on so that we can also heal others. Because after you find your answers, you absolutely must begin to share that with the world. That's what it's all about. That's what we essentially teach over at the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute. We like to teach everyday people how to heal themselves and also to heal others. That's what it's really all about. One of the most rewarding careers in the world. And again, whether you ever decide to practice or not, being able to really just teach this information to even your own family so that your family has this information, and then they can pass that on for generations to come. That's what it's all about. This is information I wish I had when I was a teenager, when I got sick. And no doubt about it, I'm sure my mom and my parents did as well, because if they could have saved me a decade worth of suffering, why wouldn't they want to? Of course they would have. So again, this is something that we all need. I've been fortunate enough to be able to be taught this from many brilliant mentors from all over the world. And now it's a great pleasure to be able to answer your questions on the weekends. So let's get right into it. I'm going to open up your questions from the weekend. Today, if you want to follow along with the questions, just head on over to stephencabral.com/1710. So all these are answered in the order that they come in. Today's came in on September 8th, and it looks like September 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th or so are the questions. And let's see when this one's going to be published. It'll be on, what date is that? It looks like it's October 11th is today, October 11th. All right, so we're just about 4 or 5 weeks behind. That's actually pretty good for us. So again, all the questions are answered in the order they come in. So Andrea is up first. Andrea says, "Hey there, I heard you speak on Christine Hassler's podcast. I was wondering if you have more info on detoxing, specifically the basics like you spoke about on her podcast. Thank you." Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate you writing in and appreciate you tuning in from Christine's podcast. She's a great woman and really a pleasure to be able to do her show. So let's answer your question. All right. You can get a complete, literally A to Z on what detoxing is all about at equilibriumnutrition.com/detox-course. equilibriumnutrition.com/detox-course. Completely free course. The reason why I'm giving it away for free, usually this is no exaggeration, a $397 course. The reason why I'm giving it away for free is that it is one of the most important topics that hardly anybody knows about, and it's being marketed all wrong. People are talking about, green juices as detoxifiers, and yes, they have a lot of awesome potential, and I love green juicing, so don't get me wrong. People talk about teas as detoxifying. No, they're just components of it. A full detox in a functional medicine detox is very different. It is enabling your liver to move through a process which it naturally does called phase 1 and phase 2 detox, but it ramps it up to a much far greater level. Absolutely worth your time to check that out. Completely free. And then we'd love to have you join us for one of our functional medicine detoxes in the future. So again, completely free, equilibriumnutrition.com/detox-course. All right, Michelle's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Thank you so much for everything you do to help change people's lives. You have definitely made mine better since discovering you and your practice. The knuckle on my pinkies, more so my left pinky than my right, is inflamed and has progressively gotten larger over the past couple years. I'm only 35, I'm in good shape, I've done several of your detoxes, and I'm on the last month of the CBO protocol. I notice my knuckles feel tighter and larger when I eat simple carbs. But even on the detoxes and CBO protocols, I don't see the knuckles getting smaller. My paternal grandmother had rheumatoid arthritis and her fingers ended up going in many different directions. Is there any way to stop the trend of my knuckles enlarging? And even more importantly, can I reverse it? Thanks again for everything and look forward to your answer. Sincerely, Michelle. Michelle, thank you for writing in. It's a pleasure being able to at least chat with you over the Cabral HouseCalls. I hope that one day we'll be able to, many of us will be able to meet in person. I hope to be able to do many more live events once the world opens back up. And well, what I would say to you is this. The CBO protocol for sure is the best place to start, and then make sure you're doing the CBO finisher. No doubt about it. Seal up that gut. Then find out, are you someone who's more sensitive to grains? Maybe you get flare-ups with grains. Maybe you're more sensitive to specific foods. So do a rotation diet to figure that out. I'm sure you've already done a 21-day grain elimination. Do it again, if you want to. See if that's a big thing. Or eggs. Definitely take out dairy. Now, let's say forget about that. I know that you're more sensitive to simple carbs. Well, what is going on here? Is the simple carbs really, are we talking, what simple carbs are we talking about? Fruit? Or the simple carbs as in like bread, right? Because the bread could be a grain-based issue with a simple carb. So I wanted to be able to differentiate the two. And what I would also say is looking at what is causing, if this is rheumatoid arthritis, I don't know that it is, what's causing this Th1 immune dominance? What's going on with the body? Let's look at the whole de-stress protocol. Right now we're talking about diet. But what's your exercise like? Because that matters to balance the stresses on the body. What about your stress? What's that like? What about your toxicity? What about your sleep at night? What about your emotional balance? And yes, supplements matter as well. And then that mindset. So again, let's look at the whole de-stress protocol. I can't pick that one out, but I can tell you this. We've helped many, many people with rheumatoid arthritis and to really rebalance the body. I wouldn't tell you that if it wasn't true. But do keep in mind, much of this can be reversible as long as there has not been deformation. Inflammation is one thing, but when the joint's been deformed, that's a different story. So let's help you before there is the deformation. It's not deformation, it's deformation, I guess, or malformation, or I don't know what the correct word is, but when the knuckles become gnarled, I know exactly what you're talking about. So we want to make sure that we help with that. All right, thank you, Michelle. Yvonne's up next. Do you know anything about sun-synced nutrition and the solar time calculator diet to work with your body's natural rhythms dictated by solar time to experience profound physical, mental, and spiritual health? I would like to know more about this, what it is, how it works, etc. Can't seem to find any more information unless you pay for it. Yvonne, I have no idea what that is. I mean, I'm always honest with you when I don't know. I've studied a lot, read a lot of books, so I tend to know a little bit about things, just in random areas, but I have no idea what this is. I haven't even heard of it before. And honestly, it seems like a lot. We now have a diet based on solar time. Seasonal-based diets, phenomenal, right? Seasonal-based diets, wholeheartedly agree with. Eat the things that would be ideally around you locally. But again, I don't follow that completely because I still eat certain fruit during the winter months and I still make smoothies and all that because it's what's best for my body, get all that whole food nutrition in and be able to get all those antioxidants in. So I apologize to Yvonne. I am not the person to be able to answer that specifically. But again, maybe there's a lot to it. I don't know anything about it. All right, Andrew's up next. Dear Dr. Cabral, I'll make this as short as possible. For those who are under extreme financial hardship and can't run labs and also can't afford protocols at this time, what do you suggest to help those who are most likely suffering from some type of gut imbalance? I've heard you say it doesn't go away on its own. Is the CBO protocol the only option for correcting this? Likewise, is there any method of correcting hormonal balance other than lowering stress without the ability to purchase correcting supplements or protocols? Basically, what can we do at home to help in these areas for people with limited funds, even if it's temporary period of time till they're more financially stable? I'm a huge fan of your work, but it's extremely frustrating not to be able to purchase things I'm sure that can help me. This is why I try to absorb all the information you provide, and so thankful for that. Sincerely, Andrew. Andrew, that's completely fair. I totally agree with you. Listen, I was sick when I was 17, and don't get me wrong. My parents took great care of me. There's no doubt about that. But I was one of 4 kids. We were all 18 months apart. We weren't spending money crazily. Let's just put it that way. We ran a couple labs at a time, and that's what we did. That's what we felt was appropriate. we spent a little bit on supplements, but what I ended up doing was and again, I'm not saying that you're in the same position. I was in college. I worked. I would just spend my money on nutritional supplements. It's what I did. I'm not saying it was the best path. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just saying I know that it's difficult. I mean, I worked for $6 an hour. Like, it was awful. And then when I graduated, or I would work during the winters at a gym, I get paid $8 an hour. So that doesn't afford you very much, right? You'd have to work 4 hours to afford one nutritional supplement. So listen, I totally get it. So what can you do though? Well, so here's the thing. The CBO protocol is about $100 a month. So it's about $3 a day. There's no doubt about that. There is a cost to it. So, I always say, is there anything that you could cut out to be able to purchase that? The CBO protocol, I don't know. And let's just say it's not an option. So what you can do though, is you can also look at just a good elimination diet, right? So you can at least start with eliminating the foods that we know are likely to exacerbate gut issues. And that's processed foods, that's sugar, that's dairy, that's wheat. And, start eliminating those. I mean, really, the rain barrel effect is basically free, and any profit that I make is donated to charity. So read the rain barrel effect and use the tips in the book, most of them free, right? Choose the diet. We need to eat foods anyways. And if you can't afford all organic, I did a podcast on the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. Check that out. Which ones are okay to purchase conventional, which ones absolutely must be organic, or just, again, don't eat them if they're not organic. Then look at exercise. You can do that. Bodyweight exercises right at home following videos. Stress reduction, right? We can work on that. We can work on meditation practice. We can download free apps. We can do those things. Toxin removal. Detox is basically free. I mean, it really is. It's less money to do our 7-day detox than it is for most people for a week of eating. And that's because for 2 days, all of your meals are done with your shakes. And then every breakfast is taken care of for you. And then there's no mid-afternoon snacks because we also give you a shake for that. So that one seems to be pretty affordable for most people as well. You could definitely do the 21-day version of that, which I would definitely recommend. Let's keep working the de-stress protocol. After toxin removal, it's rest. Make sure you're getting 8 hours of sleep a night. Make sure that it's more hours before midnight. Make sure that you stop eating 3 hours before bed. Then it's emotional balance. And then, yes, supplements do matter. And what if you could only purchase one? Well, try to get the daily nutritional support then, because it's all of your vitamins, all your minerals, all your electrolytes, your detox factors. It's 15 grams of protein. It's about $2 a day, and it provides your whole breakfast if you want. So I think that there are things that we can do, and then that success mindset, that's the most important. Andrew, you'll get there. Trust me. Again, I totally know what you're saying. I didn't have any money until I started working until I got to be 22 years old. And even when I was 22 years old, I struggled for a year because I was just starting out in work. So I worked 2 different jobs. Both of them paid me $8. I'm not even exaggerating, $8 an hour. Then I got a raise to $17 an hour, and I thought I was rich. It was unbelievable. So I get it, Andrew, and hopefully the tips I gave you helped. All right, Sarah's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I'm a big fan, and I'm making my way through all of your educational podcasts, and I've learned so much. Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you, Sarah. And I want to stop. I don't often thank people enough. It's because it's awkward for me to be truthful, but all of those just sentences where people say that they've learned a lot from the show and that they appreciated it, it really does mean a lot to me. It really does. This is a show that I try to produce basically 7 days a week, and I've been doing it now for 5 years, almost 5 years now, and it's a lot, but I wouldn't have it any other way. And honestly, it's my favorite thing to do. So I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone for writing in. I appreciate all the reviews you leave on iTunes, for the book on Amazon, for the products at Equilibrium Nutrition, for the reviews on Amazon of the products. All of those things, I deeply appreciate. So please keep them coming. And again, it means a lot to myself and my team. I mean, there's about 50 people on our team who make all of this happen. So thank you. Okay, so Sarah says, thank you so much for what you do. I've recently added oil pulling to my morning routine, but when I wake up, I feel very dehydrated and want to drink a lot of water. Would drinking water in the morning before oil pulling move the bacterial buildup from my mouth back into the body? What are your thoughts? Thank you. Well, I know what you're talking about, and it could be because you're mouth breathing overnight if you're feeling that dehydrated. So I would just be careful that you're not actually dehydrated. And I would also be careful that you're not mouth breathing. If you are mouth breathing, check out my podcast definitely with Dr. Sorry, I always call him Doctor because he's brilliant. But not Doctor, but Patrick McEwen on the Buteyko breathing and the oxygen advantage. So check that out, because really we want to work on nasal breathing. But here's the thing. You could brush your teeth first thing in the morning, then drink water, and then do oil pulling. It would still be okay. It really would. Just don't swish the water in your mouth as you're drinking it. All right. Chelsea's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I've been in search of a hormonal-free birth control and found a product called Phexxi. It contains lactic acid, citric acid, and potassium bitartrate and is inserted vaginally before sex. I wanted to see what your thoughts are on it and if you thought the ingredients were safe. Thanks for all you do. Oh, okay. I didn't see exactly what you're talking about. Well, so you're not taking it orally. You're using this vaginally. All right. So basically, here's the reason why most likely it works. I'm certainly not a specialist in this area, but you're using a product that essentially is very acidic, and high acid-based environments will kill sperm that are more alkaline, because sperm can't live in very acidic-based environments. So are those particularly toxic? No, not particularly. But citric acid isn't the worst thing, but it can come from genetically modified corn. If we ever have citric acid in our products as a preservative, all of our products that we formulate are non-GMO. So, there's always it's kind of like, well, no, I wouldn't use this, but I understand why you're using it to not get pregnant. So I understand it, and it's kind of like, it's all of degrees of toxicity. Is this toxic? Well, certainly to a degree. To a degree, yes. But potassium bitartrate, I believe that's how you pronounce that. I never look things up, but I'm going to for you right now, because I want to see the substrate of this. Also known as potassium hydrogen tartrate. See the chemical formula, and acid salt. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. So basically, you're making your vaginal flora even more acidic. Now, do keep in mind, this could lead to a potential imbalance in your vaginal flora, which is basically the bacteria of the vagina. So just keep that in mind, but I don't think that there's probably a large toxicity. I would look deeper into it. Again, I haven't researched it, but I just wanted to pass along what I know from what you wrote in. Okay? Thank you. All right, Ryan's up next. Hello, Dr. Cabral. I hope this question finds you well. Possible solutions for early morning leg cramps. In the later stages of my sleep, my calves have been cramping up. I've been taking CalMag complete before bed and was wondering if it could be a magnesium or hydration issue. Thanks. It absolutely could be. Yeah, it absolutely could be. It could be a sodium potassium. It's typically magnesium, CalMag. So let's do this. Let's stop the CalMag before bed and let's use magnesium only. Try full spectrum magnesium at dinner, and then try magnesium citrate before bed with some water, and try that for 3 to 5 days. See if that helps. The CalMag balance may not be working for you. You might need to use CalMag complete at dinner, and then the magnesium citrate before bed. That could be your answer. So again, I can't give you treatments. I can't give you protocols, anything like that over a podcast. That's not how this works. But I'm just saying, if I were in your position, I would eliminate the CalMag, and then if that helped right away, I would add in the magnesium citrate before bed, and then I would eventually add the CalMag at dinner. That's what I would do. So Ryan, hopefully that's helpful. Could be a hydration issue for sure. That's what I would look at first. Write back in if that wasn't the answer, okay? Write in if it was the answer. All right, looks like this is Ryan's question again. So Ryan says, hello again. I wanted to ask one more question. What are your thoughts on the use of psychedelics for healing remedies? I've heard you speak on the subject. Heard you speak on the subject once, but more or so want to know about the use of LSD. Being synthetic is less optimal than the use of organic magic mushrooms, for example. Would you still consider LSD or acid as having potential healing benefits? Well, again, this is not my area of expertise, but I've done quite a bit of research in the area because I'm open to everything, right? Again, whatever's going to help people heal, I want to do that. And I work with quite a few people and know quite a few people, family, friends, extended, that deal with addictions. And I know that psilocybin can help with depression. And I know that it's been shown for some people to have an effect, even just using it once, for up to 6 months for depression and addictions. So why wouldn't we want to be able to use that, right? So psilocybin coming from mushrooms, and then we have LSD as well. But there's other caveats to that too, because then there's also DMT. What does DMT stand for? Dimethyl... I forget what DMT stands for specifically, but I believe that you can also get DMT from ayahuasca, right? I believe that's part of it as well, and that's why people are also using ayahuasca. I personally haven't gone down that route myself personally, nor do I use it in my practice, but I would also let you know too, instead of using these larger dosages, there's actually new research being done for microdosing psilocybin. And so these might be things that are used in the future. And as long as we can do it safely and they are helping people, I can recommend it, because I recommend CBD as well. Now, which are cannabinoids. Now, the problem is this, and I want to make sure I'm doing well on time. I am. So this is very important, because let's say you're suffering from an addiction. Let's say you're suffering from low mood or issues like that. I do want to also be aware that there can be real imbalances in the body that are not going to be corrected through the use of psilocybin or DMT or anything. So remember, addictions and learning disorders and anxiety and PTSD and all sorts of issues can be related to gut dysfunction. It can be related to lower thyroid. It can be related to lower vitamin D. It could be related to lower serotonin production, which could be a shortage of melatonin. And then from there could be a shortage of melatonin from too high a production of cortisol. It could be lower levels of B vitamins. You need B6 to be able to even transmute into serotonin, which is the happy, feel-good neurotransmitter. So remember, working on always asking, why do I have this in the first place, will give you your long-term answer. But in the short term, could I be okay with someone using something like psilocybin? I could. I absolutely could. Just like I can be okay with people using CBD in the short term, but not necessarily needing to use it all the time in the long term, right? Because then they never found out their why. So hopefully that was helpful, Ryan. Thank you so much for writing in. These are always great questions. I would expect nothing less from our community. So thank you so much. And of course, as always, please do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could serve. Take care, everyone. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.